Hey guys, Corey here with NoobComputerBuild.com. Today, we're taking a look at the Be Quiet Pure Power 11 FM 750 watt power supply. We're going to talk about whether some of the specifications and whether this power supply is the right one for you and the type of PC that you have. So let's get into it. When choosing a power supply for a lot of budgets for mid, high range PC builds, such as those in our monthly gaming PC builds, I usually recommend anywhere from 500 watts to 750 watts in general. And that's kind of where this new line of Pure Power 11 power supplies comes in for Be Quiet. That's why when you choose a reputable power supply along with one that has all the features you want at a reasonable cost, you want the assurance that your PC will continue to have enough power while saving the extra costs for high performance hardware like maybe your CPU or GPU. That's generally what I recommend. So who is the Be Quiet Pure Power 11 FM for? In general, this power supply should fit mid to higher end kind of gaming PC build. It's currently rated at, this one's currently rated at 750 watts. However, it also comes in 550 watts and 650 watts in the fully modular versions. Now, this power supply is currently priced fairly competitively with other 750 watt gold rated fully modular power supplies at the moment, with only a handful that are at most $35 more or cheaper, and not as reputable as I would necessarily recommend. So each and every power supply in the Pure Power line of power supplies comes with a Be Quiet silenced, optimized 120 millimeter fan, which is the standard and decently cool, quiet. It's a decently cool and quiet fan that's similar to the other Be Quiet silent fan products. The Pure Power 11 FM is also 80 plus gold rated, and it's at the higher end of the 80 plus gold rated certification, up to 93.9% efficiency. So quite efficient on that standard, which is actually at the top of the gold rating standard for these power supplies. And not these power supplies, gold rated power supplies. So this power supply could also be considered an economical choice for those looking to squeeze a good amount of performance while spending a little less on their power supply up front. In terms of the technical specifications, you can see that it does support up to 750 watts of continuous power with a peak power limit of 820 watts. It is a fully modular power supply, which means that you can unplug all of the cords and only use the ones that you want and plug those in, making it quite versatile. And there's an active power factor correction, PFC, which enables a power factor at 100% load of 0.9, greater than 0.98, which enables a high efficiency standard for this power supply. Power supply's efficiency is what actually sticks out for me and really speaks to the Be Quiet's price per performance stance, as it is very competitive at the moment, if not better than a lot of power supplies with the same features in the gold rated standard category. The average lifespan is rated at 100,000 hours, which is fairly typical at an average temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, which is fairly standard. I do find that the operating temperature that they list as being the max, being only 40 degrees Celsius, is a bit interesting, as it is 10 degrees less than other competitive models, such as the EVGA Supernova, which is at 50 degrees Celsius, which is typical for this range of power supplies. One could argue that if you live in a climate and had a PC running, you could easily hit 40-degree room ambient temperature quite easily under operation. So that's one thing to take into consideration. In terms of size, the Pure Power 11 measures 165 millimeters by 150 by 86 millimeters length, width by height, making it a decent size for an ATX standard power supply. It's a little bigger than a standard ATX size, or longer, at 165 millimeters. However, it's not a huge deal, but still shorter than kind of a more premium model than I had in my current PC, which is the Supernova 750 G2 at 180 millimeters, but still ATX standard. The included ports and cables are an ATX motherboard 20 plus 4 pin, an 8 plus 4 pin CPU, 4 PCIe 6 plus 2 pins, 9 SATA, that includes 2 hard disk drives and a floppy. I was curious to why the opening where the drive input is a tad wider than the actual input, but then when I finally got to installation, I realized that's where the clip goes, but it is a little off-putting at the beginning, as there is that little bit of a gap. On the top side of the power supply, you have the included silenced optimized 120 millimeter Be Quiet fan. One of the things I like about the Be Quiet the most is their minimalistic design style, and that this is the most apparent when looking at this side of the enclosure. This is because it is the most detailed in terms of design, being the only thing that really pops is the quiet part of the Be Quiet logo at the center of the fan itself. Other than that, the fan is smooth, rippled plastic, and the fan is covered with a simple but eloquent black grate. On the sides of the power supply, we have an informational sticker outlining the power supply's details. On the other side, there's a simple embossed Be Quiet on the metal itself. Again, a very minimalistic approach to the design, which suits the power supply quite well. On the back side of the power supply, is where you find the input for the AC plug, and it's turned on by a typical power switch right above the plug input. And finally, the rest of the backside is simply a metal grate with a ton of hexagonal holes that are side by side, with the sole purpose of exhausting all of the air blown into the enclosure by a 120mm fan on top. Now, what's included in the box for the Pure Power 11 FM? We have the power supply itself, which is simply wrapped in a bubble wrap on the left-hand side of the box, plastic wrapped bag of screws, and all of the cords themselves, all the modular cables. In the modular cables, they're all kind of a black, flat black, while the ATX cable is the only one that has a sleeve on it. So one improvement that I could suggest is maybe Be Quiet could have more premium cables. However, I actually found that to my benefit in this particular case that I have, as they were more easily malleable, so I can move them around more and squeeze them in, so they didn't take up as much space as my previous power supply, which had full sleeve cables, and it was kind of a bulky mess. And then finally, one other thing I noticed was on the SATA cables is that vertically installed SATA SSDs on the back, that the SATA cords had to go underneath to plug in to power them, and that there was a ribbon that kind of bubbled out as you plug them in, whereas it would be better if the SATA cables kind of jetted out and kind of went up a bit, so you can easily install those that way. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but I just had to squeeze them in order to get the side panel on. Now, in terms of how does it perform, the Be Quiet fan, when you load it up under minimal load, actually is virtually silent. So when you put your ear up to it, I can barely even hear the fan itself subjectively. However, here's a chart by Be Quiet themselves that lists the load at 10% all the way up to 100%, and you can see at about 60%, that's where the noise decibels kind of jet up, and so you can see that it goes from about just under 10 decibels to all the way up to I think it was about 25 decibels, so which still isn't too bad, but for the most part it'll be kind of just silent. It's Be Quiet, it's silent. Now, installation and thoughts on overall quality. I'm currently using a budget Corsair 175R case, so it's a kind of a small mid-tower case, and theoretically should fit most ATX power supplies. However, it is a bit cramped at the bottom. My previous power supply was actually longer and it had sleeved cables, so it was very squished in there. However, the Be Quiet Pure Power 11 power supply, I was able to easily put it in, and given the ribbon cables, I was more easily able to install it. So that was a good thing. So overall, why should you get the Pure Power 11 FM? It's a great price per performance and quality at the moment. It's a fantastic top-end 80+ gold certification power supply, efficiency up to 93.9% efficiency, and looking for a power supply that's fully modular and relatively quiet with a silenced, optimized 120mm Be Quiet fan. It makes it virtually silent. What could be improved? Well, there is a low manufacturer warranty that is only 5 years, which is a little low due to in comparison to the competition, which is typically about 10. All the modular cables could benefit from sleeves, with the exception of the 24-pin ATX cord, which is already sleeved. And there's a relatively low operating temperature rating at only 40 degrees Celsius. With that being said, all in all, this is a great power supply that definitely has a great cost per performance stance, as the Be Quiet's intention is. The power supply delivers an impressive high-end 80+ gold cert efficiency that has all of the features most gamers want in a power supply, while also being relatively affordable. I hope you enjoyed the overview of the Be Quiet Pure Power 11 fully modular power supply, and whether this power supply is for you, I'll leave that up to you. Until next time, best of luck building your PC.